Awesome.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to call the October 6th meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Go right into chair remarks. Just a couple of remarks. One, just kind of information. I think all of the board is aware, but we, the board and the utility, sent a letter to the Northeast Metropolitan Regional Vocational High School, or the VOC, to their building committee, sharing some opportunity and considerations in their new building that are in alignment with our state's net zero goals outlined in the 2050 decarbonization roadmap. If you haven't seen the MCAN MLP 2021 report card is out. That came out 2-3 weeks ago. We are tied at 12th with Chicopee. We didn't really move up much from the 2019 report, but the MLP portfolios used was 2019 data. So some of our more recent portfolio changes aren't reflected in there. And some of our more recent programs like Your Choice, Your Power are also not in the report yet as well. I do think there's some easy things that we could increase our score by implementing things like just simply putting our fuel mix portfolio on the web page as called out. If you haven't read the report, take a look. I'll put the link in chat as well. And then the third item, if you hadn't seen, Governor Baker created a commission on clean heat with an executive order a couple weeks ago. That commission will set targets for buildings across the state, including homes, in accordance with the Mass Clean Energy and Climate Plan for the 2030. While I feel our EE programs are on track, we'll just need to monitor any mandates or recommendations that come out of that commission that potentially impact us, residents and businesses of Wakefield. I'll put those links in chat now. Do any other commissioners have a report?
I have an update on green communities.
Go ahead.
So we are proceeding as planned and on schedule for now with our application to the Green Communities program this calendar year. So our opportunity to turn it in, we can turn it in anytime on a rolling basis through the end of the year. Key milestones for completing that application are, first and foremost, getting our municipal building scoping audits complete, which I think the most recent update I have is end of this month. We will need to prepare, obviously, the application package, which is in process. And we'll be having 2 presentations, which we've tentatively scheduled, obviously, based on getting the audit results back. So we have 2 presentations for town council, one in November, one in December, and 2 for school committee, one in November and one in December. The first meeting is going to be focused on the energy use baselines. So what does energy use look like today in Wakefield? And then the second one will be the strategies and approach to get to the 20% reduction over 5 years. Both of those parties will need to approve the strategies and actions and things like that in order for us to submit at the end of December. So that's the tentative schedule and key milestones. And if there are any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Jen. Any other commissioner reports?
I just wanted to mention real quick that I know that there were a couple of people from the public who were on the call last month when we had canceled the meeting. So I just wanted to suggest that maybe in the future, if we do have to cancel the meeting, that we have somebody dial in just to tell people from the public that the meeting was canceled.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, I agree. That's a good idea.
Yeah, no problem. I'll make sure we do that if we do that again.
Okay. Any other commissioner reports? All right. Silence is golden. The town council liaison is not present. We'll move into public comments. Are there any members of the public that would like to make a comment? Just a reminder that state your full name and address.
Hi, this is Micah Canistero. My property address is 101 Cedar Street in Wakefield.
Go ahead with your comments, Micah.
Yeah, I'm following up on a meeting I joined back in July. I can refresh the group if they'd like, just to hear sort of the timeline story on what I'm calling in on about today, which is basically just the moratorium and how it's affected me to add new gas service to my property. Would you like me to just get everyone up to speed, or are people familiar with my property and what my request was prior?
We're pretty
Well,
familiar.
I think, I think we left it that you were going to get back to us with your analysis, and I asked you last week if you could send me something, and I still haven't gotten anything from you.
Is that Peter?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Peter. Yeah, we've done a lot of talking with the consulting firm that you recommended, and they're actually extremely helpful. So I really appreciate you connecting with us, connecting me with them. I've had a couple conversations, several email correspondences, and the information was very helpful in terms of them telling me, how the energy costs compare from going from electric compared to gas. The one thing that the one problem with still moving to electric instead of gas is the feedback I've gotten from real estate agents in the area, and it wasn't sent very far in advance of the meeting because I didn't get replies back prior to the meeting. Actually, one came just moments ago from Chris Barrett, who's a pretty well-known real estate agent in the town of Wakefield. And, I've had several conversations with him about my property and trying to get his professional opinion on what his experience has been in trying to sell homes with gas versus electric heat pumps. And his feedback was that I'll be glad to read the email to you all. You have it in your inbox now, Peter. And again, apologies for not getting it to you sooner. I'm kind of at the mercy of people sending their comments in writing, because I think that's more beneficial, something for everyone to reflect back on and circulate. His email was brief, but he said, basically, when selling property, that buyers prefer gas heating systems rather than electric. It's difficult to quantify the value. It has become a general resistance to all electricity, and buyers just pass on the property. I don't have a cost analysis on the rental side, which is something I asked for. I'm not sure if folks on the phone are familiar with Chris Barrett, but he's a very well-known, respected real estate agent in the town of Wakefield, is very familiar with properties like mine and values and, what factors buyers look for. I also have a more in-depth email from another real estate agent, Christy Etienne, which I also forwarded to you, Peter. But I know it was in short notice, so I can read that to you as well in the group. After careful consideration, I wanted to go into further detail about the difference in listing property when renting or selling and deciding amongst electric versus gas. The cost for electric is more expensive and costly than gas, and will ultimately cost market time, vacancy costs, and you will lose money. On average, the cost of an electric is 2 to 3 times more costly than gas. For a renter who is budgeting expenses, this will be less likely to rent an apartment with electric than gas if and utilities are not included. If you choose to do all utilities included, you will have to try and offset the cost by raising the rent, ultimately bring your rental higher than the fair market value, making it a bit harder to find a renter, vacancy costs. If you choose to list a property fair market value, your out-of-pocket monthly operating expense would be greater, bringing the profit of the rent down. If you choose to sell the units, the costs are similar as stated above. Attached is an example of two similar condos, one gas, one electric, listed for sale. You will see in the example, the unit with electric cost, the one condo, a great deal in both vacancy costs and selling price. There's a $46,000 difference in sale price, and the electric unit sat on the market 302 days. So the two examples are of similar sized units in Wakefield, both condos, both similar in size to my what will be property units. One sold for $480,000, was on the market for 302 days. That's $25,000 less than asking. The other one was on the market for 7 days, listed for $499 and sold for $27,000 over asking. She then goes on to say, this is definitely not every time. However, in comparing costs, it is more beneficial to have gas versus electric. And from a professional standpoint, we see this when listing property for rent or sale. Electric is a hindrance for buyer or rental and a negative on the property. So those are two testimonials that I have from real estate agents that are very active in the Wakefield real estate market. And my other discussions, I've learned that, from the consulting company that you recommended I speak with, their opinion is that with all the work that I'm doing the property, that it won't be as impactful from an operating cost standpoint as what the last realtor suggested. And obviously we're doing some great things with the property, spray foam insulation, new roofs, new windows. So I think it'll be very actually energy efficient. And the cost to get these either electric or gas products on the property isn't really a make or break in either case. The main reason that I'm still wanting to pursue gas is just simply for the economic value. These are 4 units, which I could easily convert to condos, and I've considered in the future. I think it would just be of a greater value as she shared one example of how that was the case. I'll go ahead and pause there and see if I can answer any questions or just if you'd like to share your thoughts.
Well, the second real estate agent seems to be referring to electric resistance heating versus heat pumps, 2 to 3 times more. You should be more energy efficient than gas heat with heat pumps.
Mm-hmm.
So I have one comment. This board asked you to bring us a comparison of the installation of heat pump versus gas plus AC to do cost comparison. I have not seen that. So I don't know if you have done that comparison or not. If you have not, I again ask that be sent to us before we take any of this matter under consideration.
Okay, I guess what I was thinking was because I'm not claiming it's more or less expensive for gas or electric from an install standpoint, I wasn't comparing quotes. I was actually very much going off the information of the consulting firm, which was recommended, and just taking their word that the costs are similar from an install standpoint and operating standpoint. What I'm leaning on is more the economic value of a home that's gas versus electric in a resale or in a rental market. So I'm not suggesting that it's actually more expensive to install electric than gas, or that the operating efficiency is more with better with gas and electric. I'll just take the consultant's word for it and say that the economic value is going to be less on a house with gas, rather electric than gas. And therefore, that's why I'd still like to submit for an exception on the basis that I'm not adding square footage to my space. I've made it highly energy efficient. And there was an obvious miscommunication between the gas department and myself when I removed my oil tanks. move to what I thought was going to be gas. And just as a reminder to everybody, the application for gas changed with the gas department after my application was submitted. So that's the basis of my request and why I'm requesting. If it's critical that you want to see the operating costs, but that's not really what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about the economic value of the property, and it will be materially impacted going electric versus gas, as we can see these listings were.
I would agree with Commissioner Corsi that, those are based on resistance heating, which are, wholly different than heat pump on those. And, you kept referring to electric versus heat pump. Those are very different items.
Understood, my mistake. Mm-hmm. I was really hoping that we could come to.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure that Chris was talking about the same thing either on the Barrett analysis. So, our opinion is that my opinion at least is that the moratorium has been in place for quite a long time, and we've actually done a lot to bring the cost of the heat pump products in line with the gas products as part of our moratorium, and so therefore, to reduce that impact. In terms of economic value, the marketplace is also changing, and I'm not sure when property one sat on the market for if the other property came on the market last spring, nothing stayed on the market for more than 7 days, and was the other one on the market at the start of COVID when nobody was buying anything. So we're not sure what the time frames are, but I would guess that if both were on the market this spring, they both would have sold over market. So
I would just say, the moratorium's been in place. Your house is being converted from a single family to a multifamily. Multifamilies clearly fall under the moratorium of no new gas service. The fact that you are doing major renovation and insulation and all of that makes your property kind of ideal to be converted to heat pump as well. As far as the application being changed, the application, it's still a multifamily. It just was, the application was changed to just select single or multi on that as well. Any other?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, no, you just had a question regarding when the property that was listed for 300 days, when that was on the market and when that got taken off market. It was put on market in June 2020, which you could say was an impacted period, but then didn't sell until June 2021. I think everybody could agree that there's just an inventory shortage on property in Wakefield, and if anything, property values rose during that period.
Was that property, when it's listed electric, is it resistance heat or is it heat pump?
That's a fair question. I unfortunately, I don't have that with me, and I may have a hard time finding other like properties with electric heat pumps to share, and perhaps I don't have enough information this morning to this evening to share on my request. It's just it's frankly just frustrating, but I understand what you're requesting it and why you're requesting. I just don't know that I'll have a good comp, but the problem is the perception of electric heat pumps. I've been quite educated through this process, and it's been really interesting to hear how they are the most efficient form of energy, but the perception and the education that it takes to convince renters and explain the heat pump process and the thermodynamics and people just look at electric utilities. People just look at electric heat and they don't, oh, is it a heat pump? You know, people just swipe on the listing or on the property that's being listed for sale. So, you know, that's the main basis for my request. It's not because I believe at this point that the energy is less efficient, or I believe that the install costs will be greater one way or the other. I think it's either way. It's not like a big difference or a big decision, part of my decision criteria. It's mainly the concern that, you know, on a property like this that could be worth, you know, well north of $1 million, even if it's impacted by a few percent, that's tens of thousands of dollars. So, you know, that's, and I also think I have a basis of a request just based on the miscommunication that, you know, took place prior to me moving forward with the removal of my existing heating system.
Yeah. Well, we went over that. We disagree with the fact that there was any miscommunication, but that's fine. I think the other thing you got to realize, Mike, is that since the moratorium has been put in place, the rental market in Wakefield is converting to heat pumps. There's 1,000 units on the market. I mean, on the drawing board right now between last year, this year, and next year, and they're all going to be heat pumps. So the market that your apartments or condos are going to be in will be the same as any other multifamily that's being built in Wakefield at this time.
Are there other commissioner comments or questions before I close public comments?
I have none.
I'll just say, you know, that I continue to be sympathetic to Micah's situation, but I did believe that what we were waiting for was for Micah to do an analysis, not so much on the property value, but on the operational cost comparisons between gas and heat pumps. You know, and I do agree with everyone else who's been saying that those real estate price comparisons aren't really an apples to apples comparison, because of the fact that we're talking about electric baseboard heating, which is what I have at home, which is completely different from the heat pump. So I feel like I don't have personally enough information to really come down on one side or another right now.
Well, I appreciate your comments and seeing it from my perspective. I will continue to say that I was misinformed by the gas department on multiple occasions, and I feel like there's zero accountability, but that's a completely separate topic. So what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll look at the cost of insulation, compare the two. I'll try to find a better comp with heat pumps for these size units, just to compare the economic value difference in whether it's, you know, worth continuing to pursue this. That's all I have to say tonight. I appreciate everyone's time, and have a good rest of your night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mike.
Any other public comments? Okay. No other public comments. Moving on to section C. Approval of the July 14th, 2021 minutes. My edits had made it into the board book. Are there any other commissioner edits at this time?
I have very few. If I can go through them quickly, if we can get them out of the way.
Go ahead, Jack.
Page 7. 1, 2, 3, the fourth full paragraph, second from the bottom, the last sentence. It says 3 units will be between 800 and 100 square feet. I think that's supposed to be 800 and 1,000.
Yeah, I would agree.
Next page, middle paragraph. In the fourth line, I didn't understand this sentence something seems to be wrong here. It says, gas is not available on the street, but even if there were, the environmentalists are looking at getting rid of gas. It doesn't make sense. I didn't know what it was supposed to say.
Commissioner Corsi, that's, do you want to clarify that?
Yeah. Take me back to the discussion. Go ahead. If you can repeat it, Jack.
Yeah, it just says, let's see. Gas is not available on the street, but even if there were, oh, maybe
Yes,
there's a comma missing, but even if there were a
yes.
comma, the environmentalists are looking at getting, oh, it's missing a comma, and then environmentalist needs to be plural. Now I get it. And then we can, well, on page 12, project 2015A, in the middle of that top line there, it says, where Pete said that MWEC is due to provide the DPU. And then there's a typo in the width.
Oh, yeah, extra A.
Yeah. Yeah, just two more typos here on page 13.
Oh, it's a block of text.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 lines up. It says, more than likely, MWEC will bring us the option to participate at a board meeting this fall. And then it's a period, it should be a comma, at which time we will take a vote. So a comma and a small a. Did everyone follow that?
Yep.
Yep.
And the last is the same thing on page 14. About 8 lines up where there's the word future that's indented, and it ends with a period. And then the next sentence is, so that as customers add load, blah, blah, blah. That needs to be a comma and a small s. That's one sentence. That's all I have.
Thanks, Jack.
I have one on page 2. Chair remarks, the top 2 sentences. Commissioner Betcher noted that our new town councilor, and I believe that spelling of councilor is legal, Tom Mullen, and we're really referring to the selectmen councilors, and that would be
That's true.
COUNCILOR versus the SE.
Good catch.
Yep, and then it's down below under that, there's another occurrence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the only one that I had.
All right.
Okay, I had updates in the first 6 or 7 lines on page 8. And I'll describe them and then I'll just read the updated statement. So all I did was, just for clarity and readability, just combined the first 2 sentences. The second sentence is the same, and then I combined and clarified the last 2. So the first sentence I'm requesting would now read, Commissioner Calais commented that new development in town has brought forth questions and comments about planning and zoning policies and practices, and the town should advance its planning and zoning policies and practices to address emerging issues. Then the next sentence, this sentence is the same. She commented that over time, we will have situations that do not fall neatly into the black and white areas we thought when we set up our policy. Then I'm requesting that the last 2 sentences instead say this. She is open to discussing how to evolve this policy and noted an interest in expanding the policy to be more inclusive of new buildings.
Sylvia, did you get all that?
I did send it over email to Pete,
Okay. Okay.
but if there are any requests to change or alter that in any way, I can resend it.
Yeah, I do have it electronically.
I have no
let
problem
me-
with it.
Jen, can I ask for a clarification? So the last two sentences would be changed. So that means the sentence that says, he said that especially if you are looking to sell these units. Is that the sentence you want to change?
I think it's
No, but
further up in the
I don't
paragraph.
even see where you are.
Jen, Jack's looking at the actual last sentence
Oh.
of the paragraph, which I don't think is where you were changing the.
Correct. So I'm working from the top down on that paragraph. And the last
Right, but
sentences
The last
that I'm,
two sentences and those, and the last sentence, the last two sentences begin, he said that especially.
that's not, yes. So the paragraph that I'm, or the part of this paragraph that I'm looking to change starts at the top. Commissioner Calais commented that the town of Wakefield, and ends with the sentence that comes right before Commissioner Warshall. And that sentence reads, if you are going to have new construction, no matter what, it should be included in the moratorium.
Yeah, that's the last sentence, but you were saying you were changing the two sentences. So you're starting with she noted. That's the one
Correct.
you're changing?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Elton, you were going to say something, or?
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
Just trying to point Jack to the right
Gotcha.
sentence.
Yep.
All right. Any other updates to the minutes?
The only, actually, if I can just add, there are some references to Sylvia, Vinny, and Mark. On first mention, can we just add their last names and position? Thank you.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the July 14th, 2021 meeting minutes
Phil, can you just add as amended? Do
as amended. Thank you.
you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right. Roll call vote. Commissioner Corsi,
Aye.
Commissioner Calais,
Aye.
Commissioner Prifty,
Aye.
Commissioner Walshall,
Aye.
myself, aye. Minutes approval passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to section D, old business, project updates. Pete, do you want to push these, or do you want to do it from, do you want to handle that?
Actually, can we just go to Mark and Joe first? Because I'm coming in. I'm just getting ready to log in.
Sure, absolutely.
My computer.
Yeah, we'll move to old business, the energy efficiency program update by Mark and Joe Collins. Floor is yours, gentlemen.
Thanks. So Joe Collins has, just to give a little bit of past history, Joe Collins has helped us with putting together a review or a look at the success, where we've been, with our energy conservation program. And he put some data together consistent with the past. This is the second look, actually, I'm just fumbling back in the packet to get the pages. So it's on
Page
64 of the packet.
Yep.
Yep. So Joe had started with us as an intern, collating some of the data and actually putting together a tracking system in place so that we are able to easily and better track the information. So I'm not going to steal Joe's thunder. I'm going to let him walk us through it, if you would, Joe. And certainly we can go ahead and answer questions as well. You're on mute, Joey.
Sure, sorry about that. So basically, it's just kind of a look at both it's kind of the first from February to basically August of this year. It just kind of gives the list of rebates and incentives that customers have actually received. The first graph shows that it graphs how much we've spent versus how many rebates or incentives have been captured by these customers from February until August. Some of the preceding pages after that are more in specific detail. There's a page for appliances, which goes into greater detail. I also made a graph that shows it's kind of a 7-year look back, because when I originally did this project back in, I think it was 2019, I looked back all the way to 2014 to do a 5-year kind of analysis. So I had some of that previous data to look at. And I made a specific chart to show how, with the entrance of heat pumps, how gas and oil heating systems have come down as a total percentage of rebates from all the way back into 2014. The gas and oil heating system rebates made up around 10% of our total rebates programs, whereas now it's much lower than it is before. And I think that's consistent with how we're trying to move the direction. And then to complement this, it's also showing the heat pumps are becoming a larger percentage of our rebates, up around 10%, and projected to be even higher than that for this year.
So it also talks about, saving. So not only is it, data about the costs, and, it also talks about the savings that, if we look back on pages 65 and 66 and so forth, further dig down into the data a little bit more. It talks about some of the KWH saving, and it actually pushes it out over 5 years as well. Some of the KWH savings that we've realized by going with providing incentives for as newer appliances and devices come onto the marketplace. They're becoming more and more efficient. So we have some data on that. The 5-year savings of, for example, of a new dishwasher, new fridge, things like that. There's data on that as well. So.
And in a lot of cases too, we ask customers to provide information on the appliances that they're replacing, because this gives us a better idea into how much savings will happen. So like sometimes it would be a much higher savings, obviously, if they're replacing a 30-year-old appliance, heating system, what have you. And so that's factored in too, as well as if they don't give us the information, there are assumptions that are made based on life expectancy of appliances, of kind of what they're replacing.
Right.
A
lot of those assumptions, they were taken from, there's a federal U.S. There's an energy, I forget where it was, but it was an energy efficiency clearinghouse or warehouse that the Fed puts out that we peg the data to as well. So
yeah, there's the federal standards. You can look back, plenty of years to see what the average or the lower end that you can have, as well as you can see from the Energy Information Association, you can also peek some of the data. They do reports, I think it's every couple of years, about Energy Star versus a typical, and you can kind of do a look back over the years as to how far these kind of different appliances have come. So it's kind of taken data from multiple sources to try to put something together that's cohesive and makes sense. Obviously, it can't be perfect, but I feel pretty good about kind of the distribution of sources that have been used.
I have kind of, and I think I know what it is, but had a question, page 66, where the heat type, that is the heat type that was replacing a heat pump. Can you just where we say electric, gas, and oil?
Sure, page 66.
Yeah, there's two there's two, there's two, not really charts, but tables here. And I'm asking the question on the table 1, where it says electric rebates process 1,
Oh,
gas
yes.
18. So those are where we replaced specifically heat pumps, or just rebates against these.
So this is actually this is a look at insulation. So it's
This is an insulate.
yeah. So it's looking at seeing these are insulation incentives, and then the heat type is just of the customer.
Okay.
Basically trying to put it in the terms of what
Gotcha.
primarily they'll be saving.
Okay, so these are insulation. All right.
Yep, and then windows are done.
Labeled. So I guess I have a question on the heat pumps, or even any rebates that we're doing on gas systems, or have we captured and do we have if we have the data? I think it's helpful and meaningful for especially the heat pumps, what they're replacing. So, we've processed 36 in 2020 and 28 and 21 so far. Are those replacing natural gas, oil, electric? I think that would be meaningful data if we have it, and if not,
I guess the one thing Tom would probably have to be careful of it is the cases where it's replacing versus just supplementing, and they didn't actually remove.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I mean, all true as well. So I don't know if we can capture some or all of that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I think just trying to get more information from the customers is probably just moving forward is the only thing that I think helps. The more information that we get, the more we can kind of entertain some of those deeper analysis items.
I think we are getting more of that information now because we have a BOD in the process on that side. So we can see what they're capturing, because they do a complete review of these applications now. And so I think there's definitely more information there. We can look at what we have available. But like I said, I would think of the 32 to 36 or whatever number of rebates we've processed, I would guess a relatively small percentage was a complete replacement of one system with this. There was probably a bunch that were supplemental to a gas, oil, or electric system.
Okay, yeah, and it's, for me, I think that obviously the cost savings for the customer is great and very valuable and meaningful, but I think us as a utility, we want to kind of capture the positive impact on the peak, both electrically and gas, and try to quantify that as well, if we have that data and can do so.
I think that would be hard, Tom, to do, especially if you're just adding on a system and not eliminating an existing one. And I speak on my experience. I mean, I just submitted a rebate a month and a half ago, or 2 months now, and it was just an add-on mini split that I added on in the attic so I don't have to turn on the main system. Every time I needed AC or heat, I can just heat up one room, the office where I'm working from all day long. But it's going to be hard to calculate that. But
Yeah, I can see how that would be, where the addition to kind of quantify that will be difficult. And really where I was driving was just to kind of highlight, how, especially the heat pump is, helping us, kind of shave those peaks and, keep the system running.
yeah, I think the only way that could be done is to compare, let's say, prior to a heat pump being installed, usage of the same similar month, but then you're talking about the different variables of weather within that month too. But
yeah, the heat index days and all of that.
Yeah.
Did you have a JLo done prior? All right. Thank you for that, Joe. Mark, Joe, did you have anything else to review? Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack that.
You're on mute, Pete.
Ultimately, I think we're at a point now where we have the budget coming up next month, and we agreed to hold the energy conservation charge last year based on kind of incomplete data. But I do think we're going to recommend increasing the energy conservation charge this year. Mark, do you want to share your screen with the?
Yeah, I can. Did you give me the ability to do that, Dave?
Oh, Dave's talking, but he's on mute.
Did you give me, Dave, where are you?
He's
The
probably
slogan-
adding it for you right now.
Slogan of 2020 and 2021.
He's telling us he's doing it. But
You should, yeah, I was saying that. You're right. You should have it. If you can't do it, it's your it's technical.
Okay, all right, hang on.
So I guess my point is that, so the cost, after the first year, the costs were sort of unknown and run rates, but now we have a couple of years worth of data. And there's also elements of different, in this same family, for example, the solar rebate program, if we're going to continue to do that, we need to fund that. And it shouldn't be as a pilot. It should be out of the energy concept. Out of the pilot, we tried to fund it under base rates, but it was very limited impact. But if we're going to keep it in our offerings going forward, then we should be funding it out of this. In addition, well, Mark could share all of it with you.
Can you see the screen now?
Yes,
I
we
can see
can
this.
see it.
Okay.
We can see your directory tree.
Thank you, Dave. You can't see?
We just can't see the actual chart.
You can't see the pie chart? Hang on.
No, it's a list of files.
Yeah, are you just sharing?
Huh. Hang on, let me try that again.
You have to have that pie chart up. Is the pie chart up on your screen?
How's that?
Yep,
Yeah.
I can see that. Looks good.
Yeah.
You got the pie chart? Okay.
Pie chart.
So, thank you, Dave. So, if we look at the spending, so what we did down here, can you see the bottom, the numbers down here too?
Yeah.
Okay. So the run rate on the rebates and on the programs are right here. So that's the monthly run rate. So we annualized it. Solar 75,000, abode 17, rebates and incentives 123, program MWIC is 104, for a total of roughly $380,000. And here's the graphical depiction is up here on the pie chart. So if you look at the 10-year average, residential sales is running, an average is running 80 million kWh. So doing the math on, on a $480,000, $400,000 conservation budget based on the run rate that we're experiencing right now, it works out to be 5 mils for the rate. So right now we're at 0.001, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So right now we're at 0.001, and that yielded around $80,000 for residential for over the.
And
over
we've
the-
only been applying that to the rebate category. And
Yeah.
the rest of these things have been kind of treated as pilots within the core business. But, you know, we'll talk a little bit in the executive session about other
Yeah.
costs that are going to go up. And I think this is the appropriate time to make the adjustments and put all these under a single category.
Yeah. So.
Can you describe what is in so there's administrative costs under MWEC programs and then administrative costs under WMGLD program admin. Can you tell us what's in each bucket?
So you can see the right-hand side here, right, where it says admin 42,618. You can see that?
Yes.
Okay, so that's so basically that's the cost that we pay. So like say Joe Coles' salary, that's the cost that we pay MWEC for administering all of our conservation programs.
So that counts, you know, administering connected homes, that counts marketing material that they provide us for the EV programs. It counts all the development work they're doing on programs that we can participate in. It's our share of that cost. So those are all the administrative costs in addition to the straight costs for the audits, the EV chargers, and the, you know, the connected homes. So that's all factored into that.
It's all direct costs.
Right.
Yeah.
The internal cost, the WMGLD cost, is our cost for reviewing, managing, and paying out all the rebates. So it's all the internal administration. That's a piece of Mark's time, piece of my time. You know, we paid Joe to do the annual analysis. You know, there's a cost for doing annual analysis. That's Shauna's time for administering all the rebates.
Yeah. So right now that's this slice you were looking at, Jen, the 60,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's the internal. That's, you know, that's right here. That's actually it does not include Pete. It doesn't include any of my time. It doesn't include any of yours, any of Sylvia's. It doesn't. It's really it captures
Mostly Shauna.
0.75 of an FTE, you know, with no benefits, is really what that number captures. So, and that's what it takes us to administer in-house.
Mark or Pete, on the rebate incentives, I mean, we know how many units are going up in Wakefield, and they're all going to have the heat pumps. Are they qualified to get the incentive rebate on the heat pumps that they're installing, or is that outside of the rebate program?
That's
new
outside of the
construction.
rebate program.
Right.
Okay,
We don't offer it on new construction.
got it. Okay.
So it would be helpful to see the admin costs, and I mean, I can do this, but just broken out separately because you are mixing incentive costs, it looks like, under MWEC programs with admin costs a bit.
So I'm just lumping everything that came in from
The
MWEC.
MWEC side.
Yeah.
Yeah, goes in this green.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was in the blue.
I'm sorry. You're right. It's in the blue. This rebates and this rebates and incentives is excludes any administrative.
Yeah, that's Jen, that looks like that's on the right where it says rebates incentives.
Yeah.
That corrects
That's
that.
that's a pure account credit to customers. The green 123.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what, Jen, you're asking, back to 42 out of the 104 for MWEC and make it an administrative bucket?
Yeah, I would appreciate that because I consider a lot of these things to be some form of incentive, right?
Yeah, so we could just do another slice, you mean?
Right, because I just
Something like
want to
that.
see what the admin costs are for for all
Yeah.
of this separate. Yep.
Yeah, we can do that. So that's,
But at the end of the day, this is the total cost of what we're, you know, one of the things that we've been doing all along is that we've been administering the rebates ourselves.
Yeah,
And because we annually look at the cost of keeping that in-house versus having MWIC do that. And our MWIC costs would go up significantly if
right.
they were doing all the administrative work
Right.
that we're doing on that side.
Yeah, so that's an all-in, right? That's the 380 is, that's all in. And that's the run rate right now.
Yeah.
So,
And the 0.001 cents that we currently charge versus even going to the 0.005, so it's a half of a cent, is still well below National Grid and NSTAR are both at between 2 and 2.2 cents. So we're less than a quarter of the, and again, that includes, some of the bills are very complicated. They have solar, EV, they have a whole laundry list of stuff. But if you add all that stuff together, that comes out on an NSTAR or a National Grid bill, it comes out to between 2 and 2.2 cents. And so we're still well below market. Now, if you look at Peabody, they do not, they keep it all in their core business. And they don't have a separate energy conservation charge. Reading does have a separate energy conservation charge. Theirs is at 1/10 of a cent. However, they have more than 3 times the load we do, so that their 1/10 of a cent generates basically the equivalent of what we need.
Do we, on that 1/10 of a cent for Reading, and I can go look at just kind of comparing apples to apples, are their rebates and incentive programs pretty on par with ours? Are we doing more or less?
I'd say when we trued up our programs 2 years ago, I think we tried to bring them to equivalent levels. There's maybe a few things that Reading does offer. We could talk about adding, and I don't think we're ready to do it this year, but we may do it going forward. Is they do offer an incentive to upgrade your electric service. And if you remember at our last meeting, one of the things we talked about was the fact that one of the issues folks might have as we move towards more electrification is the internal house size of a service. So we could consider adding that in to the programs. That would, that may increase our rebate level a little bit more. We could probably do it under the 1/2 cent at this point, but that is one program that they offer. I think if you remember what we talked about the last time on that, what you find is that people, one of the barriers to electrifying is the size of the house service. And I talked about talking to the folks at Heat about when Lawrence occurred, the Merrimack Valley issue, a lot of people wanted to switch to like convection ovens and other electric appliances, and in some cases they were eliminated by the size of the service that came into their house. So,
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I just pulled up their page and.
Pete or Mark, is the 380 enough to cover the rebate programs or incentive programs, or?
I think it's the run rate right now, and I think that taking an increase to a half a penny is it's a good intermediate step. And again, we can sit back and gather some data at that level. What do you think, Pete?
yeah, I agree. I think when we change the energy conservation rate from a fixed number per bill to a cents per kilowatt hour basis, part of the way we designed that was that we could look at the annual cost each year and look at, if we decided next year that we wanted to increase all these rebates or add more of this, or there's some new thing that comes along that we have the ability to adjust the energy conservation charge on an annual basis as part of the budget. So that's why we don't need to take a vote on this tonight. I wanted to put this information in front of you because I thought it was a good call. Tom had asked if Joe and Mark could put together kind of the data where we were through 3 quarters. So I thought it was a good time to talk about this in preparation for next month's budget issue, but it's definitely an issue that we have to deal with.
Thanks.
Is this increase planned for just the residential component, or are you talking about doing this on the commercial side as well? I
No,
mean,
the
in other words,
commercial hasn't been fully subscribed yet, so we're probably like a year, well, we are a year behind, because it was an extra year before we got commercial going. So we don't have enough data on commercial, so my recommendation is to kind of hold that constant at this point and not make any changes to that, but we're starting to get a run rate on the residential side, so.
yeah, so I think this is all great, and I love that we're having this conversation. I think we have a couple big topics to talk about, so I want to make sure we leave enough time to talk about them. I think you raised the question of what's in the core business and what's in the EE charge. And the one thing that sticks out at me that hasn't been folded into EE charges in many jurisdictions is the solar being a generation resource. So I just want to raise that. I am not fully convinced that that shouldn't be part of the core business. So
Well, if you look at the two investor-owned utilities, it's a separate line item.
on the EE charge,
No, on the bill, it's a separate, so we're trying to keep our bill simpler. There's a
Okay.
line item for solar, there's a line item for EV cost. We're rolling it all into one bucket.
So you're saying the solar on the ISO?
On a national grid bill, there's a line item for solar rebate programs. On the NSTAR bill, there's a line item for solar rebate programs. That's
And that's
separate.
the GPU rate?
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, that's helpful to know.
So we looped it all in, so that 2.2 to 2.2 cents that I was talking about, that rolled all those subcharges. And I definitely don't recommend that we break our bill out anymore. I think more and more customers like the simpler bill. And I think if you look at some of the investor-owned bills, they're very complicated, but it has like 5 items for the stuff that we're talking about here.
Yeah, and that's not actually what I was suggesting at all. I was wondering why it can't continue to stay where it is in pilot phase.
Because I think we're gonna make it, unless there's a desire to change it, we're gonna take it out of pilot phase and put it into a regular offering every year. We're into our 3rd year now, so.
Pete, what would be the impact? I mean, impact in just putting the solar just under core business? I think that's what Jen's asking.
Yeah, I think there's a global financial issue that we got to deal with, and I think that's the reason we try to right size our costs. The way I view it is, it's not necessarily a power supply cost, because we get very little in terms of net metering revenue, and we pay for that out of our net, the net metering side. So that's in the cost of electricity side, but this is truly an incentive for customers, most of it, so.
I believe that this subject is going to get a lot of attention going forward. The legislature is not very happy with the progress of converting homes. Boston Globe's been all over the articles of 461 homes have been converted when the goal's 100,000. Legislators like Barrett and Pacheco are openly attacking the Mass Save program being under control of the utilities, and looking at other ways to have someone else administer that plan, seeing it as rebates and incentives and conflict of interest, electrifying homes versus keeping them on heat. So I think we're going to be talking about this quite a bit going forward.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I think you raise a good point that I wanted to kind of revisit as well, the incentive package and what we are incentivizing in line with some of the conversations that have been happening. one thing that I did note is it looks like, and maybe you can confirm, that there were 0 oil heat system replacements.
Yeah,
in
so, yeah,
this
we
data.
eliminated incenting for that because
Oh,
we stopped that portion of our program, which was basically if you went from an oil system to a slightly more efficient oil system, we still paid you a $100 incentive, I think it was. We've stopped incenting going from oil to oil, basically.
okay.
Yep.
So one thing that I would just like to ask in preparation for further discussion is, I think this data is really great, but some of the columns are not consistent from table to table. Can we just get for each measure, number of rebates, the total cost of the rebates, the savings, and then can you calculate it as a cost of saved energy? So in other words, putting the cost on top and the energy on the bottom, because that would allow us to compare to some of the other investments that we're making a little bit more readily.
I can look at it. I can't guarantee anything. That's a lot of easier said than done.
Okay, I mean, I think a lot of it is here, but for example, like under the heating and cooling savings, we have energy savings, but we don't have the number of units there. Like number of rebates and the rebate costs. So it's just that each table has very slightly different information, that's all. And maybe I'm just not reading this correctly, but.
Yeah, I think you're looking for basically more or less a summary analysis that includes the fact that, okay, we paid out $10,000 in rebates in the appliance bucket. We forecasted that it saved X kWh. What's the annual cost per kWh?
Right, and I think we had looked at that previously because I remember we were seeing some of the measures
Yeah, like the
with
dish.
a really high cost, and we were debating whether to truncate the program and terminate incentives for those measures. And at the time we said we're not quite ready to do that yet. And so I just want to have the data so we can revisit that conversation.
Yeah, Jen, that was, I do remember that discussion. We did have that data because we reduced the rebate on the example as the dishwasher, where we saw we had a high rebate spend with very little energy savings, both in kWh and obviously dollars saved.
So is that on page 69?
Nope, let me go to page 69.
So as an example, on page 69, so the dishwasher you're talking about would be on the second table down. It says, so we as an example, we gave out 27 rebates, cost us $675, and the kWh savings on that was $12,960. And the average savings for 5 years would be 1920. 19.
Oh, okay. I wasn't reading this table correctly.
Yeah, 19.2 kWh.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So that's for the appliance program.
Yeah.
Do we have this also for the, I'm just trying to navigate all of this, the heating and cooling program?
I think that's what Tom was asking earlier, Jen, and
Yeah.
Mark said that, and I agree with Mark. It's going to be hard to do that when you're not replacing a unit, but you're adding on to existing. systems. Like my example, I didn't replace my gas
Right.
heating unit. I added a mini split on top of it.
Yeah, supplement versus a replacement. Is that what you're saying, Elton?
Right.
Yeah,
So you're saying we don't have the breakout of that? Like, we don't know?
we don't have the data, we don't have the data behind what each customer did. Is that what you're asking? Yeah, we don't have.
So when we are talking about, so basically the conversation we're having right now is really just isolated to heat pumps though, because the other heating systems would most likely be a replacement. So we're just talking about like a single unit mini split and how we don't know how that's probably not a heating system replacement. Correct?
Right. Yeah. So the only other, only heating systems we deal with would be the gas furnace replacements that have gone from a 78% efficiency to an whatever percent efficiency.
And then we have the central air. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
We could look at the 32 customers. I think we could get data from those customers and try to look at, for example, Jen, you were a case of that you added a heat pump. You're trying to manage as much as you can. So you want to look at your gas going up versus your gas going down, your electric going up and all that. So we can look at the sample of the 32 customers or 36 or whatever and see if there's anything we can learn from that data. If they were gas and electric, did their gas go down and their electric go up? And we can try to do some analysis of that, but it's going to be very varied. But this is one of the things we discussed when we tried to look at the data in terms of added load for electric vehicles. I think it's going to be very customer specific. Tom's electric vehicle charging probably went way up at home because of COVID, but prior to that, he might have spent more than half his time charging outside of the home,
Is this something that, I'm just throwing this out there, a board can help with? Because we're not the only people dealing with this issue.
Yeah, I think that we can ask them what kind of data they gather on as they review each, customer, but again, it's still just going to be estimates,
Mhm. Right,
Did I
and
miss
for
anything?
a customer that like Elton, who has 1 unit, and a customer like me who has 5, you would know in those extremes that the way we're going to use those systems would be dramatically different.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
But even with that, if you have 5, you didn't take your gas out. So,
Right.
So there's still,
Yep.
So there's probably a mountain of data there. I don't know how much it's going to drive. We're pretty simple. So I think that, we'll try to stay with the market in terms of what they're offering in terms of rebates.
Yep. Yeah, and I wasn't, I just think we should be continuing to kind of improve that data as much as we can each year.
Mhm.
Yep. And you're right, we don't have a ton of data, so it shouldn't be as difficult, I guess. We don't have a ton of measures the way the IOUs do, so this should not be as difficult for sure.
Yes, the scale is different.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. And yeah, I'm kind of looking to help out with that by saying, can we be focused, right, about what we're doing and how we want to do it? So.
So do we want to have any other questions about this type of topic where we are going to recommend that we for next year, increase that energy conservation charge? Is there more information you want to? I think we're definitely recommending that we pull some of these costs into that charge that have been kind of hidden in other places at this point.
Can we just on the and I don't know if Reading will give it to us. Just kind of wanted to compare. I know you said that their load is about 10 times, but was looking to potentially normalize their data. What is their budget for their EE? And versus, are we on par with them in terms of rebates paid out, and normalize that to say that, truly their, 10th of a cent to our 0.05 cents is kind of equal and in line with the market, is kind of with our neighbor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a report that they have on how many rebates they paid out last year. And we can also figure out, we know what their kilowatt hour sales were, so we know what they got for the 0.001 in terms of revenue, so we can take a look at that.
Joe and Mark, nice job pulling the data together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
very
very much.
appreciated.
Yeah, thank you.
Helpful. Okay. No other comments. Pete, do we want to pivot back to your
Yep.
project updates?
Yeah, I included in the package, the town has adopted updated COVID-19 protocols and measures. They have adopted basically the ruling that everybody must be vaccinated or provide a weekly test. That started this week. There's also some higher restrictions on travel. So the town's policy, which is basically our policy, is included in here. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that. We still have 10 people that have not been vaccinated. At some point, that's gonna, as Elton was saying before the meeting started, I think you're gonna see stuff come to a head at some point, and we'll have to monitor that. The way our distribution of people that don't have it, a high percentage are in one division, and so that does potentially present the problem, and we have to be prepared for that and watch for that.
Yeah,
So of the 10, 6 are in one division. So.
If we would have, if the town adopts some sort of policy that, kind of seeing in other places, if that would have a severe impact on operations or not.
Potentially it will. So that's what we're just gonna have to watch for that, and be prepared. And maybe that involves, we do have contractors and we're gonna have to watch for that, but if there's if there's an issue, we're gonna have to keep an eye on it. Hopefully, it doesn't come to that. I think the whole idea of adopting this policy at this point was to continue to strongly encourage people to get vaccinated. But again, it also, the people that aren't vaccinated are becoming more entrenched. So I'm not really sure where it's all going to end up. We'll have to keep an eye on it, watch closely. And again, we have 4 out of our 10 people in that division are vaccinated, so we could get to operate in an emergency mode, and we may have to do something different. I hope we don't. I hope ultimately people get vaccinated, but we'll keep a close eye on it.
I was gonna say, Pete, maybe an update to like a business continuity plan could be worth it, because we're talking about all of that right now.
Yeah, we've been looking at that, because since COVID started in that one division, it's also the high risk that they all get it at the same time. So we do have a backup plan if that were to happen. So, ultimately, going forward, we're just gonna have to, it's gonna become a part of our life. It's gonna get resolved at a national level, I would guess, and filter down to the state and local. And so, but I think, at this point, we as a department and we as a town are being consistent with what you're seeing at National Grid and Eversource and the state government and everywhere else. So,
Right now, totally agree.
Yeah, my read is that this was a very detailed policy. And did it go into effect on Monday? Is that correct?
yes.
Okay.
So we got tests for our first week, and we're just gonna have to stay on top of it, so. Well, I don't know if there was any other questions about any of the other projects. There's a lot of information in there.
Are we gonna go to the general manager's report?
Yeah, we
seem to
can.
skip over a few things.
Did you have a question about anything or?
Well, yes, and probably others do too. I was just wondering if we were gonna get back to there or if we were just skipping it.
No, I was,
But I just wanted to go over on the customer issues log, if we can get, I mean, Tom, it's up to you. I don't know, what do you want to put things in?
Sure. You wanted to talk on the customer log? Just trying to get to that.
Yeah, I just wanted a little bit of background on the September 1st issue with the gas service interruptions and the gas main and services replacements. Wiley,
Those
that's
Wiley, Pete,
yeah, that's down off Water Street, right?
yes. Hang on, let me get it.
Okay.
Page 19 is the.
yeah,
So, I
Oh,
mean, it seems like
this is
Yeah, an
when
awful lot of work.
we had the torrential rain and all that.
yeah.
yeah, so 12 services had to be replaced. What happened?
So that was all bare steel pipe and it leaked. When, you know, we got basically what, 12 inches of rain over the course of a month. And so that basically got moved up on our gas main list. 12 services is very common. You know, we decided that what was going on is we were getting a leak and water was intruding on a single service at 12 Wiley Place. And then as we continue to try to repair the leak, it grew on, you know, we were finding more and more problems with that pipe. So we basically decided to replace the entire main on that street. And that's typical emergent gas work throughout the year. We're on Stedman right now with similar issues. But in this case, we replaced about 380 feet of main and converted to 12 services.
Okay.
But that was the only one that the Wiley Place was the only one we were getting water filtration issues. And that's kind of why we raised it. There was a single customer that saw repeated water issues. That's why we put it on here.
And Pete, while we're talking about gas, can you just give an update and report on the DPU warning letter?
Yeah, so Tom got copied on this now. They've updated their policy based on PHMSA that the chairman of the board gets copied too. So Tom got an email last week that talked about what it was. It was a warning that we need to make sure we address all our inactive services. There's protocols for how we're supposed to deal with those. And what I explained to Tom is that this is kind of a legacy issue. What used to happen is that when you stop having gas come to if you choose to not have gas anymore, it would be basically cut off at the property line and there would be a stub left off the main. But they found, the industry found that was a unsafe practice because, you found a lot of leaks that were in the basically retired stubs as opposed to on the main. So the requirement several years ago was to make sure that when you have an inactive service, that you cut it off at the main and you seal it at the main. So we had a legacy of several hundred of these that, you know, over the past 15 years, we've been working down that list. We're down to under 15 now, but they basically let us know that, you know, we need to make sure we address those. So there was a list of 20 that we submitted beginning of the summer, I think. We've already addressed many of those, but so the DPU issues are basically told us that, you know, we'll be in trouble if we don't deal with these legacy issues. So we have until next year to finish it, and we're well on our way, because even, like I said, we were at 20 and we're down, I think, close to 10 now. So we'll have no issue with addressing it.
So
Okay,
we
my
have,
concern,
go ahead, Jack.
sorry, yeah, real quick. My concern is the potential amount of the fines that we could be facing. So could you just keep giving us an update every month on exactly how close we are to getting these things completed?
Yep.
It'd be good. I mean, I'm sure you will have a target to get them completed months before the final deadline that they've given us.
Yep, we'll keep you updated. I have the list of 20, so we can just include it, you know, for a little while in the board book and show you how it. So there's a list of 20 that were cited in the warning letter, and so next month we can provide you with an update on what the status of each one of them is. So,
And just for, you know, on the meeting, the deadline to have the work completed is July 1st, 2022. And the reporting deadline is August 1st of 2022 as well.
Yeah, and the street opening moratorium is going to interfere with that too at some point. So, I mean, I would hope that you would be trying to get as many of these done, you know, this fall before November, but that's right around the corner.
Yeah, we've actually been working them all along, so we're not worried. And the town lets us work on stuff like this if we're not, as long as we leave the street properly, return to, you know, so this is the perfect type of work that we would continue to work on good weather days in the winter.
Jack, did you need while we're on the customer issue log, was there anything else you wanted to discuss before moving on to the general manager's report?
No, that was the only one.
Okay. And then, did anyone have anything specific on the manager report that you wanted to ask, or just have Pete give us a quick summary?
Again, in terms of the new customer projects, there's well over 1,000. Some of them are proceeding. Tarrant Lane, I think I just noticed a lot of equipment up there. That's going to get going pretty soon. Dave, you want to talk about any of them that are like really like shovels in the ground at this point?
Harvard Mills, that's working, and they're actually aggressive on when they think they'll occupy, sometime by the beginning of the year. So that project's moving along. So hopefully they'll open up the streets a little bit more often. Water Street in Del Carmine, that is working a little slow because of a cost of lumber material. That took a little hiatus, but that's back working again. Salem Street, we have 2 projects out there. They started the demo, so they cleared the sites and they're doing prep work. 404 Lowell, again, that's related to, that's been working, but it's been going slow because of cost of material. That's picking up again. Hopkins Street at Tarrant Lane, we finalized the design with them, and the demolition is starting. They have one issue with one of the houses up there that's still occupied, but the rest will be scheduled to be demolished. So that's ongoing.
And it's right. And I feel bad because there's obviously a dispute and the house is like right in the middle of the street. So,
Yeah.
So the construction is basically all around them.
Is remind me if I think we're providing both electric and gas to Tarrant Lane.
Only, there's no gas. It's all
no.
It's going to be only electric.
Okay.
Quantapowit, I have a meeting with them on Friday, and that demo looks like it's scheduled for next summer. Foundry Street Phase 2, no activity over there. Nahant, no activity, and Main Street, no activity right now. So
On the gas side, just the question Jack was asking about, like, so typically when you read, like in my update of, the first two bullet items are usually this type of emergent work that is going on where, we have a construction plan, we're converting dead main, but throughout the year, we'll get items like Wiley Place and Stedman that come in and become priorities, and we'll have to do gas main replacement. So we consider that like the emergent gas work, gas main and service work throughout the year. So, for example, the 12 on Wiley Place, there's probably 14 or 16 on Stedman that will be the same thing. So again, we were having a odor of gas issue there. Once we investigate it, we figure out that it's, bigger than a bread box. It's not a simple thing. And we ultimately decide to replace the main as a whole rather than patch it. And so that's what we're doing. We get on Wiley, and now that's what we're doing on Stedman.
And does Stedman have bare steel as well or no?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, these leak issues are 99.9% bare steel.
Yeah.
We almost never have leaks on cast iron, and we have very little cast iron left. It's only usually if there's frost heaves and we'll have a cracked bell. That's the only time the cast iron will leak. It usually doesn't leak in the middle of the pipe like bare steel does.
Yeah.
Thanks. Just circling back to the projects, I know it hasn't started, but the VOC, did we get any response to our letter? And then, as just keep us updated as, there is interaction there and how that project, starts to move forward.
I got one thank you note from Julie. That was it.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from it. It was addressed to like 25, 30 people, and I've heard one thank you note from Julie. That was it.
Okay.
I haven't heard from the school, our town rep, the building committee, our state representative. I haven't heard from anybody. And to be fair, that we wrote the letter, and I actually had a long conversation with Jen about it. We wrote the letter, but we've been on record with them for well over a year trying to encourage this, the things we encouraged in that letter. We've been talking about it with them for a long time. But the goals of the state and the state building projects are different than the goals of net zero. And so until those two things come together, they're not truly incented to look at things differently. And so that's the problem. Their goal is to get designs done and get their building built and get their 140 million from the state. But that doesn't necessarily make it consistent with the net zero right now.
Yeah, so I think the plan is for that proposal to come before Wakefield this November, correct, at town meeting?
Yeah.
So barring anything happening between now and then, that's our, if individuals want to provide public comment, that would be the time to do so.
I don't know if I have provided some detail in the last board book on 2015A and 2020A. I don't know if there's any questions about either of those. The 345 kV project, you guys, if you're reading the paper, you've followed what's been going on with that. So I don't know if there's any questions about any of that.
What's the status on the 2020A? It says bidding for a project contractor is completed. What does that mean? That you've received the bids, but you haven't awarded the bid yet, or has?
Yeah, that would be MWEC. I haven't gotten an update on if they've awarded the bid yet.
Okay.
I did see some physical. I actually went out to MWEC for the first time in about 2 years or 18 months last week, and there's definitely some like road and site work underway up there to, I think they probably did it for like soil testing and you know, site ground testing. So there's definitely physical work going on preparing for the project. So I'm not sure if it was awarded yet or not. Any other questions? The Wakefield Solar Project, Dave, you want to just give a quick update?
Yeah, sure. So the Wakefield Solar Project was out for bid, and we have a pre-bid walkthrough meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. And as of right now, we've had 12 requests for packages. So we combined Wakefield Ave as project one, project two, and 480 North is project one. So both of those are in the same bid package as two separate proposals for contractors. And tomorrow it's mandatory pre-bid. So we'll have a good sense tomorrow with the vendors that are interested.
Can you go into a little bit more detail on what that means, Dave? The mandatory pre-bid?
A mandatory.
I don't know what that.
So we advertise the projects through different entities. The state, local paper. The state has two locations we have to advertise. One advertisement had to be for 30 days. So we make the bid package available to all the interested parties. So they make a request. So Sarah received 12 requests for the bid packages. Those were provided to the vendors who are interested. And then tomorrow we have advertised in the original advertisement a mandatory pre-bid. And what that means is that anyone that is interested in bidding needs to attend the pre-bid meeting. If they don't, they won't be able to bid on the job. So that's normal practice. We do that almost every case because you want to make sure that all the parties that are interested put the time and effort into attending, and we go over a walkthrough, a question and answer. So it's very comprehensive what we do. So that mandatory pre-bids tomorrow, and then we'll go through a question and answer period. And then that will end the question and answer period, and the bids are due, I believe the bids are due on October 22nd, and we'll award the contract to the appropriate bidder probably late October, most likely very early November.
David, just another reason we do mandatory pre-bids is that you make sure everybody's on the same page.
Right.
So, you don't allow, if there's a question that comes up from contractor A, B, and C, that everybody hears those same questions. And so, that's one of the rationales behind why everybody has to be at the pre-bid meeting.
Yeah. And then Jack, the whole process is very formal. I mean, all the questions and answer only come through to go to Sarah, the purchasing manager, and those questions are she reaches out to everybody to get everybody internal, like me, and we provide her with the information, and then she sends the response and the question out to all the vendors, so everyone is aware. There's no dealing with any single contractor.
And those are just to touch upon it too, Dave, those are sent out as an addendum.
Yes.
And there is part of the bid packages for each party to initial that they have received those addendums as part of the bid package, so.
Yep. And again, if
Okay.
two of these aren't followed through by the vendor, attending the mandatory pre-bid is one, not acknowledging the addendums, the amendments, then the addendums, then it precludes them from bidding on the job. They wouldn't be eligible. So, but everybody knows the rules, and they're fully aware when they participate in this process.
What is the evaluation criteria? Is it only cost, or are there other elements that are important?
Cost and references, experience with other jobs that are similar in nature. So material they're using, so we'll actually evaluate what they're providing as well, so that we spec'd out certain requirements on the material. So they'll provide, like, we have requirement for solar panels, and that there's certain efficiency. You know, so we'll evaluate those items. It primarily is in fact cost, but the others come into play as part of the evaluation as well. And this is slightly different because one we have is, you know, is a different financing option for the building. So that financing option has multiple components to it for 480 North Ave. And then the Wakefield Ave building is more of a turnkey based on price and material and their experience. So there's a couple different criteria for evaluation.
And is this a new process? I'm just trying to get a sense, or do we use this for other types of construction activities?
This is used for
Either-
anything we put out to bid that's over $30,000.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing different on this one is is because we're going through a basically an equipment lease for 480 North Ave, that's a 30-day period for advertisement. So it's slightly different, but basically it's the same process.
Any other questions?
All right.
Sarah has been so excited to talk about the fleet. It's been days and days of anticipation. And she even chimed in on Dave's stuff too. So she's really getting comfortable with this.
Warming up.
It's probably the cold brew that I was drinking that has gotten me all shook up, but I will make it brief because it's late. It's past my bedtime.
All right.
I don't know if it's in the board book, if you guys want me to share my screen, it's
You don't have to, it's in the board book.
yeah, it's in the board book. Basically, I just wanted to, thanks for having me, but to touch upon, I don't want to say it's rumors, but that the town has put out a policy that they're hoping to, you know, pass, that just hasn't been voted on yet, to switch to a sustainable, you know, green fleet policy. I took over just a little bit of, you know, history. I just took over a couple of years ago. So, and then the world kind of shut down for 18 months. But the benefit of this all is that when I first came on, it was definitely something Pete had actually already started talking about. So it's kind of nice to, I don't know if it's my competitive edge to be a little bit ahead of the town, but yes, it is. So basically, I'm going to talk about the fleet, but this between the solar, Sylvia educating basically our whole entire community, unbelievably, with the EV cars themselves, it all plays into all the moves that we're making. I think a few of our most recent ones that are really big ones is the purchase of our plug-in hybrid bucket truck. The world's moving in a positive way, but there's certain, larger heavy duty vehicles that just are not gonna, they're just not there yet, but this was actually a great alternative. Truck 13, as we refer to it, is really actually like a trouble truck. So it has specific jobs as opposed to our regular bucket trucks that do a little bit more. It was nice having Paul Redman as our electric superintendent, who's gotten a different perspective because he's worked at different places, but we brought in Alltech, which is a company, brand of trucks that are a little bit smaller. They're more along the line of like a Verizon truck, but they were fantastic and actually came out to our parking lot to meet with the guys, go over everything, do demonstrations, because ultimately we make the decision, but it's nice to have all the guys on board when we're making changes like this. Because they're using the trucks day to day. This truck is a plug-in hybrid, and it's going to have based on the proposed fleet policy by the town, it checks off all the boxes. It's going to be able to run without being idled. It can, be on a charge while they're working. It's going to be smaller in size. It's just going to be more efficient all around. I think it helps with the guys being on board because they can be sticklers, but that was about, I would say what, Pete, like an 18-month lead out. So that's not coming until about mid-July. Shockingly, trucks are about that pre-COVID, I feel like. So I was really surprised, but so that's looking into coming in our like right after July 1st for delivery. So that's kind of one of our big things. We also had a hybrid on order for Pete, who I cannot believe his car is still running. But once we
Past
saw
225,000 today.
225,000 miles. But we actually had a hybrid, but was not a plug-in, not on order, but we basically were. But then when this policy came out, we actually canceled it. So we're really striving to like make changes. So we actually, as of just this week, we secured a 2021 plug-in Hyundai Santa Fe to replace his 225,000 mile Explorer. So I think we were trying to look and wait for the Tucson, but with like a lot of things, we were waiting for the Nissan Aria. Everything's kind of gotten pushed a little bit by 3 or 4 months, and then you're not sure if that's going to come. So he got to take a look at the Santa Fe and he was pleasantly surprised. So that's happening. We also, in the midst of COVID, I'm sure you guys can appreciate, it's looking for any type of car or used car is like finding a unicorn right now. So when we were trying to, during COVID, Pete was having, keeping us safe, but trying to get us to be in separate vehicles and things like that. We gave back our lease because we were waiting for the Aria, because it's great for Sylvia to be able to show different vehicles at our farmers market, to educate the community, show that there's like an array of different ones. We realized it's nice for our substation crew who go out with the dig safe and markings, but they don't need a big vehicle. So we were able to find actually a 2015 Nissan Leaf, a used one, which we were shocked by, and it was a very fair price. So we're actually going to be picking that up in the next week or so, that we will have on hand, whether it be because we need to keep people separate, but our substation crew really has liked it. It plugs in, they get out there, they do their stuff for the day, and it comes right back. We are also on the list for next year to replace a pickup truck, and the Ford F-150 full electric Lightning truck is supposed to be coming out. We've been on a list. We're a municipality, so we don't have to put a deposit down or anything of that nature, but we're looking to go full electric on that vehicle. So we have that. And then we also just purchased a all electric transit service van for our gas department, which they're actually really excited about. So like I said, having the guys, especially the old guys on board, change is hard. It's a 20 to 24 week lead time, which is also another one that's pretty standard. I was surprised because they outfit it for what we need it for, for job specific things. So with all of that being said, we're also on the list to get notified for the Tucson, sorry, Pete, because down the road, there will be between Dave, Jimmy Brown, there's a few other passenger vehicles that, down the road, the world's getting better, but who knows, what will happen. So we just want to be notified as soon as we want to be first. You can see a trend that I'm a little bit competitive. I wanted to thank Tom. That September, is it EV strategy call?
Yep.
You weren't able to attend. Pete and I actually both attended. It was great. I don't know if I can be added for other ones going forward, whether that one was more specific to something that I would, be really interested in, but it gave a lot of, even just networking. There was a woman in Melrose, what is her name? Martha?
Martha.
Yeah, I have it somewhere here. Martha Grover. She just did some EV charges, some pole mounted EV chargers. And that's what Dave has actually been working and CCing me on, because currently we have one EV charger in the garage. But actually, would you say, Dave, in the next like month or so, or couple weeks, we're gonna have 2 more pole mounted, but they're gonna be, I believe, like double, so there'd be an additional 4 EV charging stations. So it was good to have her to reach out to and talk about things like that. So there's that. What else? Grant funding and incentives. Some of them are pretty standard, like the gas service van that we're getting, the standard 7,500. But right now we're kind of in this limbo waiting for the February, March, DERA funding to like just get approved. I guess that's like the prime time. And that way it works out with our truck coming after July 1st that we're going to be able to just apply and pounce on that right away. So and we actually have a contact, Jason at MWIC, who knows that we're in the process of all these things. He has a list of what we're doing. So he's been great. He gets back right away, which is great. And I think that's about it. The couple things is like our dump truck. We kind of pushed that off, bought a Leaf. I mean, it was like kind of a weird, quieter year. I mean, there's nothing, I think it was like 3 years ago, they came out with trying to do a dump truck with some, electric. And then it ended up being that the manufacturers discontinued them because they just weren't cost effective. I think that we're getting there. There's just a couple vehicles that are certain things that we're almost there, but there's progress. And I think one of our major obstacles is that vehicles are very hard to find right now. I mean, even to find Pete's Santa Fe, I called every single dealership on the state bid list. Couple people laughed at me and then apologized for laughing. I mean, dealerships and places are completely empty. So that's been a little bit of an obstacle. But on the flip side, it's been great because I feel like we've gotten a little bit of a head start to this, because when I came on, Pete already had a vision that we were going to start moving in this direction. So I did reach out to Dennis Gorman, who's our town, works with the town like DPW fleet. He had a question for me, and then I kind of bounced off of him if he had started to even think about, what was going on. And he kind of ignored my question. So I think they're just kind of waiting for that policy to completely be voted on, where we're way ahead of the game, which kind of makes me feel good. So that's about it.
Yeah, so the one thing, so the ability to get the hybrid bucket was, again, as Sarah was saying, it's for a very job specific. It's our trouble truck. It's a squirt boom. It's got a 44-foot or 45-foot reach. And that same technology can't be used for our line trucks at this point. We'll have to see if those develop. But our line trucks have 55 to 60-foot reach now. So there's nothing available in that sector really at this point. But hopefully over time that may change, even if it's just the booms that are become all electric and battery. But we'll see if that develops over time. But I didn't want to leave you the impression that the next bucket trucks we can get can all be
exactly. Yeah. Hybrid. Another thing too is that we had been looking into, and we actually got quotes for, is a company. I had gone out to Shrewsbury back at the end of July. They did a demonstration with a company called XL Fleet, who actually transitions, certain vehicles to hybrids. They do have a select few vehicles that they currently can transition to plug-in hybrids, but it's very limited. It would be more just to a hybrid. We did look into doing it to one of our gas service vans that was a 2019, because you don't really want to invest too much money into such an older vehicle. But after getting the pricing for a full service vehicle, it wasn't cost effective at all. It was almost more than half the cost of what the vehicle cost in the first place. But in that EV strategy call, Tom, it was nice to hear though that the company that I talked to and met with that day, they were fantastic, and other bigger communities have used them, and they've been happy with the service, but they have agreed that the cost, they're not, to be able to see where it's going to be, where we're adopting this policy, I'd rather spend that same money to get a plug-in or full electric. You know, it's a better direction for us, for a community, as a community.
Agreed. Thank you for all, this was great. And two things, one, that group is great for, for the grant funding incentives. They're all over it, so reach out to them.
Oh yeah, I had some was it Amy McGuire too at the DOER? Like there was a bunch that it was really informative. So even if it's not like a full topic that I would be interested to, the networking was really good.
There's a lot of, the city of Boston's on there. There's all sorts of folks on there. I'll send you Jesse's contact at the MA PC, and she can add you to the list.
Perfect.
They're happy to, have all join. And if anyone else on the board is interested in joining, they cover all sorts of different topics around EVs, EV access from equality. So, kind of how the town would strategize through policy or building codes for putting stuff into fleet management. So they cover all sorts of different topics from month to month.
And it seemed like we're on track with most of the surrounding communities, at least, that we're all kind of, just adopting, researching and searching grants and incentives, and all waiting on that February, March, timeline for some of the grants and things. So it was good that we were all kind of in the same boat, and also to notice that we're not behind, which was nice.
Thank you, Sarah. And the next time, tell them you should go first on the agenda.
We told her that they get tired later in the meeting so that it would be less.
And I get to ignore my family for longer. Sorry, guys. Like,
we were supposed to see Stanley as part of the meeting, though. So
he actually already went upstairs to bed.
Thank you. This is great. And I just want to say, I know that this policy for WMGLD, a lot of the vehicles are exempt. So I absolutely love that you are pushing into exempt vehicles, because it's still emission reductions, even though it's not outside of our policy. So thank you for that. And maybe you can lead the town in addressing even exempt vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, we even, not to be like, but the one Nissan Leaf that we originally purchased before we were trying to lease to be able to show the community different ones, which, like I said, Sylvia, I go to her sometimes for questions because she's just all over it with these, and she gives me contacts and things. But we can't do this now because in the new policy, it says you can't give a used vehicle. Unless, actually, you could, if it falls underneath the guidelines. But we gave the town a Leaf, so that way, so the parking clerk is now, that used to be our WMGLD, one of our first Leafs. So I feel like it's a good gesture to kind of show, like, this is what we're doing to try to better. So
great, thank you.
any other questions? Okay. So Tom, we briefly need to go into executive session to discuss labor stuff.
he's firing me. Just kidding. Okay.
No, not at all. All right. Well,
she did really good. She's been worried about this forever. I made Tyler play her Zen music all day today so she would chill out.
It didn't work.
Well, thank you, Sarah. It's great. You did a great job.
Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
all right. I'll take a motion to enter executive session.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we come out of the public session. We go into executive session to discuss labor negotiations, at which point we'll then come out of executive session solely for the purpose of adjournment.
Okay. Seconds?
Second,
All right. And as soon as we do the roll call vote, Dave will have you stop the recording.
Yep.
Dave, do you want to kick Joey off? I don't think he's,
Oh, yeah.
please.
Yeah, hold on.
He went to sleep.
Oh,
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
There he
you're
is.
there. Thank you
I
so
was just saying,
much.
just in case you needed me. All right,
See you,
Thank you,
Joe.
thanks, everybody.
And then
so
Dave,
take
are
the
you,
minutes too, if you want, we'll take the minutes.
Okay.
Thanks, Sylvia.
Thank you.
All
and
right,
Dave,
good
you're
night.
not staying, correct?
No, Dave's gonna stay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. Then I don't need to take over host. All right, we'll take a roll call vote.
Well, we've got a motion. Has it been seconded?
yes, I second the motion.
Yep.
Okay,
Commissioner Corsi,
Aye,
Commissioner Clay,
Aye.
Commissioner Prifty.
Aye.
Commissioner Walshaw,
aye.
myself, aye. All right, Dave, if you could stop the recording.
Okay.